Powers. I am a mom to three beautiful children. We live in North Carolina. My middle daughter, Madison, is 13 years old, and she has what's called duplication 15q, which comes with autism, epilepsy, and she is diagnosed with LGS. And you'll have to forgive me, I am on day 5 or 4 of the flu, 5. So recovering, but yeah, it's been a rough go. So Maddie was I first noticed when Maddie was young, probably about 6 months old, a shivering or a shaking, which ended up being an infantile spasm. So we took her to the pediatrician, who referred us to Raleigh Neurology. And from there we did a blood panel and found out that she did have duplication 15q. And then I kind of went into my own little world of survival and said, this isn't going to define her. We're not going to live by this. You know, wasn't interested in really having a lot of support at first, because I was more in probably the denial phase instead of the information seeking phase. I don't know if I skipped a phase, but yeah, I didn't really have a lot of interest in learning more. I just wanted to think about my perfect kid. So what people don't understand is, unless you live it, it's just really, really hard. Maddie has to be watched 24/7. She's handicapped, but she's not handicapped in the fact that she can run around. She has low muscle tone, but she has seizures all the time. So she has, tonic-clonics, atonics, tonics, absence. So she could be running full throttle and just drop and lose all motor control. So it's kind of a dangerous type of handicap where she could injure herself worse than the actual seizure itself by the fall. So it's a constant battle to make sure that she's safe. And so if you don't live that on a daily basis, it's kind of it's hard to understand that. So we do have a lot of help coming in and out of the house. We use CAPC. We did qualify for CAPC. Maddie is under the waiver for CAPC, and so we do have a lot of college students coming to help us. And the reason that I do college students is because they're willing to be active and run around with Maddie. And when I was going through an agency, I just didn't find that many of the caregivers were excited about running around. They had been with, older patients and didn't really have that desire or that physical attribute to be able to do that. So on top of the care for Maddie, me physically caring for her, and transporting her to school and packing her lunch and cutting all of her food into bite-sized pieces that are easy to chew foods. There's the transportation, it's the IEPs, the IHPs, the coordinating of caregivers, the schedules of caregivers, their problems. Love them, but their problems. Then the doctors, the appointments, all the things, the medications, managing her medications, making sure that we have her seizures under control. There's always, not to mention therapy, ABA, OT, PT. It doesn't end. It doesn't end. So it's like if I was to say, these are the tasks, the things that I don't really find joy in doing for my children, like if, carpool or whatever it is, like the things that you do as a mom or a dad, there's a lot of things that go into Maddie's care. And I don't think you would understand it unless you live it and you see it every day. It's just, who would understand it? And talking about relationships and how that affects friendships is, I've just tried to take, in our house, everything kind of comes with a season. There's baseball season for my son, there's basketball season for my daughter, and then Maddie's seasons are always therapy. But with each season, there's different caregivers coming in because we have students, so like their availability changes. So I feel like every quarter we kind of have a different season. And talking about friendships, kind of look at friendships that way too. Friendships kind of may come and go as the seasons go, and the friends that are really supposed to be there are going to be the ones that are there in the end of the year, in the beginning of the year, or in the middle of the year at some point in the year. I read a great book, and it's really changed a lot of my thinking about this, but it was called The Let Them Theory. It really helped me to help identify relationships that are worth pursuing, and then ones that maybe aren't as much. And not pursuing a friendship, or, having a consistent meeting schedule with a friend, or leaning on somebody doesn't mean that they're not a friend. It can also just mean that they're not a friend right now. Because I always say you want more friends than enemies in this world. And just because somebody's not in your life right now doesn't mean that they're not going to be in your life in a year or two. So I've tried to adapt to that and say, do my best to maintain all of the friendships I can with all the things that I carry on my shoulders, and the rest will fall into place. So, and that kind of leads me into like isolation and why I did that. And that's because in the very beginning of Madison's diagnosis, I was very lonely and isolated. And my husband, I used to work. And after we got Madison's diagnosis, we decided that I would stay home. And that was very isolating for me, going from, corporate America mom, to staying home, to becoming the caregiver for Maddie and coordinating all the therapies. And it's very hard to explain to other people what you're going through. That was probably some of the darkest times when we first got Madison's diagnosis, is working through those emotions and finding people that understood. And my very close local friends, while they don't understand everything, they understand me, and that's what's important. And so those friendships have lasted through the seasons. But really helped me also was to find friends that have similar situations. And after COVID, there was a mom's group going on a mom's getaway. And it was all moms of children that have duplication, all moms that have children with duplication 15q. And I went on this trip, and I've made the most lasting friendships. And I text or talk to them almost every day. I have other groups of friends like within that community that I'm on Facebook chat groups with, that I've met at conferences. It could be a sounding board of talking about, does this seizure look like X, Y, or Z? What food should we not give her if she's doing this? Those types of scenarios, versus how are you and how can I help? Even though we might be in different countries or states, very far away. I only see some of these girls once a year. But those relationships have really helped balance me. And also let me appreciate different friends for different reasons and know what friendships are supposed to be. So I would definitely encourage you, if you don't have a support group in some capacity, to look on Facebook or find a local church, or ask a friend or ask a social worker if there's any type. And I didn't find this right away. I went to like an autism group that met at a church, and that just didn't strike the chord for me. I had met with other moms with epilepsy, and that just didn't quite strike a chord with me. When I did find my people, it really has helped, and it's helped me build better relationship with the friends that I had before. While I was angry and mad with some of them that they didn't have the same things, deal with the same issues that I deal with, that's not their fault, right? But it made me realize they can't help it, and they don't understand it unless they walk in your shoes. So having these different levels of friendships and these different capacities has really, really helped me. So the way that my community looks different is that it's a much wider community. I have friendships with moms with Dravet, children with Dravet syndrome. I have a lot of duplication 15q mom friends, many, and I cherish all of their friendships very deeply. Then I have my local friends that keep me grounded and know me, from my childhood. So I think all of the friendships make a perfect circle and kind of help me to be the better me. Um, there are many support groups and stuff out there that have helped. And honestly, talking to a counselor at times helps me as well. Talk therapy. Um, Maddie's had over 13,000 seizures in her life, and I know that there's always going to be room for more friendships and more support, and I'm always going to be open to having more support and more friendships. And I think emotionally finding a way to make yourself available to have those is important, because you need support. And the other thing is, what keeps caregivers from asking for help? Why wouldn't I go ask for help? Is hard. When somebody says, hey, let me know if you need help. It's just such a, you don't want to say, okay, well, we actually need to eat every single night. Not sure if you knew that. Do you eat every night? You shouldn't have to say that, but if somebody asks you, how can I help? Say, if you're going through a rough time, let's say your kid is in cluster seizures, maybe you say, it would be amazing if you could bring a meal next week. Tell them what you need. I would love for you to come and sit with the kids for 2 hours while I go grocery shopping. Tell them what you need, because they don't know. And that's what my local girlfriends and I got to, was, if we don't live it and we don't know it, how do you expect us to? You have to tell us. So they helped me find a way to say, you know what, the most important thing is we always have to eat, so bringing a meal is just the easiest thing. Maybe giving a kid a ride somewhere, or letting me go to the grocery store by myself, or whatever the case is. If somebody asks and they're saying they want to help you and they don't know how, or they just blindly say, let me help, then you give them a way to help, okay? All right, I think that's about all I have. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that I'm not too hoarse. And I hope that everybody finds an avenue for social and emotional release, because having a child with epilepsy is big girl stuff. So good luck. Thank you. Bye.